So Joe Biden released an ad on healthcare, and this is really, 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 really low. He's going to use the personal tragedies that he's experienced to try to gaslight the American people and redirect support away from Medicare for all, away from universal health care, and back towards incremental reform, which of course is his hallmark. So let's take a look and then come back and cringe together.
I was sworn into the United States Senate next to a hospital bed. My wife and daughter, they'd been killed in a car crash. And lying in that bed were my two surviving little boys. I couldn't imagine what it would have been like if we didn't have the health care they needed immediately. 40 years later, one of those little boys, my son Bo, was diagnosed with terminal cancer and given only months to live. I can't fathom what would have happened if the insurance companies had said for the last 6 months of his life, you're on your own. The fact of the matter is, healthcare is personal to me. Obamacare is personal to me. When I see the president try to tear it down and others propose to replace it and start over, that's personal to me too. We got to build on what we did because every American deserves affordable health care. I'm Joe Biden, and I approve this message.
That line at the end is the absolute worst. He conflates President Trump trying to tear it down, with no replacement, of course, with people fighting for Medicare for all. And he said, the people proposing to replace it and start over. That's terrible. This is personal to me, and that's bad. So it's equally bad when you have President Trump destroying Obamacare through different bills and different executive orders and destroying the individual mandate and making it so that in his first year as president, 3 million more people lost their health insurance, and as of today, it's 7 million more people who've lost their health insurance. So this is what's happening under Trump. And Biden's saying, oh my God, that's so bad. Agreed, that's terrible. But he also throws in there the people proposing to replace it and start over. That's personal to me. That's terrible. We shouldn't do that either. We need to build on Obamacare. Joe, build on Obamacare to what? What are we building on it towards? I agree we need to build on Obamacare, which is why the transition needs to be Obamacare, public option, Medicare for all. That's the logical progression. You have a phase-in period. In some bills, it goes as much as 10 years, which I don't agree with. I think Bernie's is 4. There's another bill where it's 2. But you have a phase-in. It goes from, our current healthcare system to a public option, and then finally, the end game is Medicare for all. Why? Because we know empirically that that's the correct answer, because every other developed nation has one version or another of a single-payer healthcare system, and they kick our ass in every single relevant category. So everybody's covered, they pay less, and there are better health outcomes. And there's no such thing as a medical bankruptcy. No such thing as 30 to 45,000 people dying every year because they don't have access to basic health care. So this is insulting. It's insulting because they always have this conversation and this discussion as if we don't have the evidence and the data from every other developed country. They act like that's not allowed into the conversation. You're not allowed to talk about what we know is proven to be the right answer on healthcare because, I don't know, something, build on Obamacare, Trump bad, left equally bad. And he's using his dead son to make this case. By the way, note that there's no actual argument made. And he never tells you, oh, here's what I want to do when I build on Obamacare. Like, you would think that you would have to lay that out if you're going to make the case. Oh, I want to build on Obamacare. Great. How do you want to build on Obamacare? What exactly do you want to do? He never says that. He just says build on Obamacare. This vague, amorphous, build on Obamacare. Yay. So under his plan, and experts have crunched the numbers on this, there's still millions of people who wouldn't have health insurance. So that's your starting position in the negotiation? Your starting position is, all right, let's still keep millions of people without health insurance. What the hell is that? You want to talk about massively out of touch with the political times. You want to talk about embarrassing. And it honestly is shameful to invoke the memory of his dead son to then gaslight the country against Medicare for all. Because understand something. Medicare for all saves lives. I just told you. 30 to 45,000 Americans die every year because they don't have access to basic health care. The only way to fix that is with a Medicare for all system. Not a public option, not a vague, amorphous add-on to Obamacare or expansion of Obamacare. The only way to get that number to zero is with a Medicare for all system. The only way to totally get rid of medical bankruptcies, which is one of the top causes of bankruptcy in the U.S., is with a Medicare for all system. Again, this is not my opinion. This is not Kyle Kulinski speaking. This is the data speaking. So for him to invoke the memory of his dead son to gaslight the public against Medicare for all and act like, because here's the trick. He'll act like, oh, well, if you disagree with him, well, you're besmirching the great legacy of his son who passed on. How could you? How could you do such a thing, you monster? That's the trick. The trick is, I'm going to use my personal tragedy, which everybody sympathizes with him over, because nobody should have to go through that, obviously. But he's going to use that as a shield to deflect criticism and pretend like the right-wing approach to healthcare is equally bad as the left-wing approach to healthcare, which he tosses aside as replacing it and starting over. No, actually, that is building on Obamacare towards the end goal, which we know is the answer. So when he talks about a vague add-on to Obamacare, there is no logical end goal of Medicare for all. And for the record, he's gone with this lie now for a while, this idea that in order to get Medicare for all, there's this period where first we repeal Obamacare and then we replace it with Medicare for all. See, that's how they try to conflate it with the right-wing approach to healthcare. Is because the right-wing approach, they oftentimes say repeal and replace. Now, they want to replace it with something worse, but they say repeal and replace. So Biden tries to conflate that with Medicare for all and act like in order to get Medicare for all, first we have to repeal Obamacare and then we move towards Medicare for all. But nobody ever said that. Bernie helped write parts of Obamacare. So, I mean, it's just, you're lying. It's a lie. It's a lie when he implies like, oh, they want to replace it and start over. Nobody's talking about starting over. Nobody's talking about getting rid of Obamacare and then going to Medicare for all. We're talking about expanding on Obamacare to get to Medicare for all, and that's the logical end goal. As opposed to Handsy Uncle Joseph, who just wants a vague, amorphous expansion of Obamacare, and the details are terrible, and what we know of the details is that there's still millions of people who are uncovered. So there would be more deaths as a result of his healthcare plan than there would be under a Medicare for all system, in no uncertain terms. None whatsoever. So he's invoking the memory of his dead son to defend the status quo. That's really low, man. That is really low. And that is clearly somebody who doesn't have an argument for his position. When that's what you go to, honestly, you know what this reminds me of a little bit? The old Rudy Giuliani pull out 9/11 whenever you're in a corner. They attack him on something and then he's like, oh yeah, well I was mayor when 9/11 happened. And the whole idea is he's invoking 9/11. That's supposed to shut down the conversation. Ooh, I don't have a retort to that because, wow, 9/11, it was the worst thing ever. He's invoking his dead son to try to gaslight and protect the status quo when it comes to healthcare. That's low, man. Joe, that's low. He knows it. He knows that's low. He knows it. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong on this, guys, but I recall a story. Back when his son passed away, he had said to the press, no, I'm not going to run for president because this is not something my son wants me to do. Now, again, maybe my memory's off, maybe my memory's wrong. I'm more than happy to be fact-checked on this, and by all means, post in the comment section if I am wrong and if you couldn't find anything on this. But I really recall a story where after his son passed, he's like, I'm not going to run for president because it's not what my son would want. And then now he's running for president. And actually, that was one of the first things that popped into my mind when he jumped into the race. Is I thought, wait, I thought he said that his dead son wouldn't want him to go through this, so he's not going to do it for the memory of his son. So, in other words, he's just willing to invoke it for political reasons. And that's so gross. If you're going to invoke your son who tragically passed, okay, but invoke your son for something that really, really, really is fundamentally important and would really change the system in a positive direction. But he's invoking him for, like, gaslighting to protect the status quo, and if my memory serves me correctly, he invoked his son to say, I'm not going to run for president. Now he's running for president. So the logical conclusion from that is, oh, so now it's okay to, like, besmirch your son and do the opposite of what his will was when you cited it previously is why you're not running? Oh, my goodness. Mainstream media coverage of this, too, has been abysmal. Like, I forget where the headline was, but there was one headline that was like, watch Biden's heart-wrenching healthcare ad. Heart-wrenching. That's how you're going to describe that? Heart-wrenching. That he's using the memory of his dead son to gaslight against Medicare for all and act like the right and the left are equally crazy on healthcare and he's the only sane one. That's how you're going to describe that? Heart-wrenching. Shameful is more like it.